Thank you, all of you who have joined us, and I would like to welcome you all for our session today. It's a Sunday, so taking out time is really hard, so would really appreciate that. So today's discussion, we are having a panel sort of a discussion. This is going to be on a topic of ChatGPT. I'm pretty sure everyone would have heard of ChatGPT. It's a groundbreaking technology which has come out very recently, and it is one of the revolutionary language model. And today we have a list of panel where we have expertise who are of a greatest mind in the tech industry. Yeah. So the way we are going to do is we have reached out to folks who are part of our industry and asked for any questions they may have would be more appropriate for us to talk about. And we have finalized on 4 questions, which is appropriate for all industries. So we're going to talk about it from a different perspective and a point of view. In the panelists today, we have Sugandha, who is a hyperautomation expert, and we have Astika, who is a expert in product management. We have Ajay, who is a DevSecOps observability expert, and myself have expertise in performance testing and engineering. So when we talk about the ChatGPT or any questions we are going to address today, it will be more in terms of our viewpoint from our industry expertise. And just a bit of a housekeeping before we start talking about it. So any views and any discussion we are going to have today is purely of our own. It nowhere reflects our company's view or anything related to our company. So that's being said, if you guys have any questions in the course of this discussion, you're free to just send us a chat. If you have a generic question, you can just put that down. Or if you want to ask any question specific to any industry or an expert, you can just mention their name. So at the end, we're going to address these questions. For the first 25 minutes, we will be talking more about the major subjects and the topic questions we have from our viewers. So that's being said, I would like to ask Sugandha to give a quick introduction, and then we will pass on to the other experts as well.
Thanks, Vivek, for that amazing introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Sugandha Sahay. I'm a technical program manager with AWS, and I'm super bullish on AI and generative AI. I'm also passionate about responsible automation and helping people pivot to tech. And I'm super excited to be here on the panel to talk about ChatGPT's impact on tech.
Thank you, Sugandha. And we will move on to the next expert. Astika, if you can just give a quick intro about yourself, please.
Yes, thank you, Vivek. Hey, everyone, this is Astika Gupta. I am a product manager currently working at Meta. I have been in the tech industry for over a decade now. And I'm super excited to be talking about ChatGPT. It does seem to be the talk of the hour these days. So really excited to be here and share my points of view. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Astika. So Ajay, would you like to give an intro about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Ajay Yeruva. I work as senior software engineer at Reddy Auctioneers. I have around 10 years of IT experience. I'll share my point of views from observability point of view.
Okay. Awesome. So now that we have done a preliminary set of discussion done, so we'll dive directly into the questions we have. So again, these questions we asked people who are part of our ecosystem and also in the ChatGPT, in the regular forums, in LinkedIn. We try to capture which are the questions which they would like to be addressed from this panel. So we have 4 questions, pretty much all.
Video khatam hai na?
Vivek, I think you're...
Okay, I don't know where I stopped in between. So yeah, I was just trying to say that we have gathered these questions after reaching out to our immediate ecosystem and friends and whoever part of the LinkedIn and also the ChatGPT community. And so these questions have come, we have filtered out and picked the top 4, which is worth discussing as a panel. So the first question, we're going to do a round robin. So all 4 of us is going to share our viewpoint, and then we move on to the second question, and that's how we're going to do this panel discussion. So the first question we have is, in what ways has ChatGPT been adopted in your technology or industry, and what benefits and challenges have been observed? I would request Astika to go first and share her views, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I think what sets ChatGPT really apart from any traditional AI model is its exceptional performance, versatility, and the fact that it's freely available and any one of us can use it. So as a result of that, I think ChatGPT has been widely adopted in the tech industry overall, especially when it comes to areas such as natural language processing, right, or chatbots or building virtual assistants. And even in like NLP applications that I have been, looking at that have been like really picked up is sentiment analysis, language translation, and text summarization. So of course, like also being able to develop code now has become, part and parcel of like everybody's, expertise now just because of ChatGPT making it super easy. Even software engineers trying to like test their code and also like spot bugs has become very efficient and super easy these days because of ChatGPT. As a result of that, I also do think that and have observed that a lot of innovation and investment is being happening in this overall field of generative AI. Like so companies like Google coming up with like Bard or Facebook coming up with their own language model of Llama. So they are like a lot of companies are investing now, building their own language models based on the GPT architecture. And just when I think about like benefits from an overall like tech industry perspective, it can range from anywhere like enhancing customer engagement, automating repetitive tasks, generating high quality content, and also providing personalization. It does come with some potential negative impact that I have been hearing about. I haven't observed it as much yet, but what I have been reading about and hearing about is the spread of misinformation or the creation of like some biased or harmful content. And I do also have been reading that a lot of companies are now investing in trying to counter that and address these issues and ensure the language models are developed and used responsibly.
Yeah, that's a very wonderful take from the product management side. So now we will hear from Ajay what he thinks from the observability side.
Yeah, from an observability point of view, I see there are a lot of benefits and also there are a lot of challenges. The first benefit I see is providing real-time alerts. ChatGPT can be programmed to monitor IT systems and alert IT teams when there is an issue. It can use natural language processing to interpret error messages and provide contextual information to help IT teams diagnose the issues and resolve the problems. The second benefit I would see is analyzing the logs. ChatGPT can be used to analyze the logs from various IT systems to identify the trends, anomalies, and potential issues. It can help IT teams to identify patterns and insights that may not be immediately visible to human analysts. The third benefit I see is predictive analytics. ChatGPT can be used to build predictive models that can anticipate issues before they occur. The fourth benefit I see is customer support. ChatGPT can also be used to provide customer support for IT systems. It can interact with customers using natural language and help them identify any issues within their systems. This can reduce the workload on the IT teams and improve customer satisfaction. The fifth benefit I see is chat-based communication. ChatGPT can be used to facilitate chat-based communication between IT teams and end users. For example, ChatGPT can be integrated with chatbots to provide end users with real-time support and assistance. And sixth benefit I see is automated responses. ChatGPT can be programmed to automatically respond to common IT issues and requests, freeing up the IT teams to focus on more complex tasks. On the downside, I see some challenges as well with ChatGPT. The first challenge I see is with data quality. ChatGPT's accuracy and effectiveness depends on the quality of the data it is trained on. If the data is incomplete or inaccurate, ChatGPT may provide incorrect or incomplete info. The second challenge I see is with a bias. ChatGPT can also be biased based on the data it is trained on. If the data is biased towards certain groups or behaviors, ChatGPT may provide biased insights or recommendations. The third challenge I see is scalability. ChatGPT's effectiveness may decrease as the size and complexity of the data it is monitoring increases. This can be especially challenging when it have to scale and monitor large systems. Fourth challenge I see is security. ChatGPT can be vulnerable to cyber attacks and data breaches, which can compromise the confidentiality and integrity of the data it is monitoring. Yeah, the sixth challenge I see is integration. ChatGPT needs to be integrated with IT monitoring tools and systems, such as log aggregators, event management systems, and chatbots. This can be challenging and requires expertise in IT infra and architecture, right? So overall, while ChatGPT can be powerful for IT monitoring, it's important to consider these challenges to mitigate them for effective and reliable monitoring. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Ajay. You really gave an in-depth technical viewpoint. Thanks for that. So now we'll hear from Sugandha what she thinks about from the hyper automation point of view.
Thanks a lot, Vivek. And I totally agree with what Astika and Ajay just said. So I'll talk a little bit about program management and also responsible automation. So as a program manager, I do three things, and a tech program manager, I do three things. One is, learning a lot of technologies, like, staying updated about all the technical components that are new or existing, and then communicating that to my stakeholders who are non-tech. So I constantly need to switch from very tech heavy to very non-tech heavy. And the third thing I need to do is really write a lot of docs, where I'm doing a lot of these things, right? I'm planning programs, I'm writing about the technologies, I'm writing about the pros and cons and risks, and then giving my recommendations. How I see ChatGPT helping out, over here is first helping me learn about technology a lot quicker. Instead of today, I have to go to several resources and spend days to learn about technologies. With ChatGPT, I can just say, hey, explain this technology to me who does not know tech very well, or explain technology to a 12-year-old, right? And it'll do that. And I sometimes can ask it to give me an example, which is like a parallel, real world example to link it with. It makes it very easy for me to understand these new, technical components that are coming in. So it helps me talk to engineers, because they also feel that I know it, right? But it also reduces the time in which I'm learning the technology as a technical program manager. Then I'm also able to get examples and ideas in my head. I'm building the skill set of oh, I can relate it to this example and from the real world. So explaining it to a non-tech stakeholder becomes very easy, and it's giving me those tools to do that. And doc writing, right? We have all seen what LinkedIn did, and all four of us are on Kriya. Kriya is also going to be doing that, where it's helping write starter docs, using AI, and we as experts will then go and collaborate to make sure that the doc is accurate technically or conceptually. So I think these are some great benefits of ChatGPT to help out and make us more productive as program managers. From the responsible automation perspective, Astika and Ajay covered, their biases, their fairness issues. There could be risks related to, connecting a third-party API into your system. So of course, these applications that you are using ChatGPT for requires a human in the loop to do the verification. And right now we're not at a place to 100% let go and depend on ChatGPT, but it's a great tool for improving our overall productivity.
Thanks, Sugandha. The way you explained it in a simple terms, really great. Probably I'll go now. So I would like to share what I think from the performance testing and engineering point of view. And I think this is one of the negatives of going last, because I see our expert have sort of covered majority of the topics which I was planning to mention. So that's being said, so what I think the way it is adopted in performance testing and engineering, it has not been adopted in depth because in performance testing and engineering, we are mainly focused more on the tools and generating and evaluating the website performance or the backend system performance or the API performance. So ChatGPT by itself do not have such capability to do it. So the way ChatGPT is really coming forward is helping us in maybe automating a little bit of the task and helping us to be a better communicator. That's where I see a lot of benefit because whenever we do performance testing, there is a lot of metric we collect. There is a lot of important information we collect as part of non-functional results, but it's very difficult to communicate this information to the stakeholders. They do not really understand how it all blends well. So ChatGPT could be one of the important aspect to fill out those gaps. It can help us. The way we write content and the way we present content could be enhanced in that perspective. I see definite adoption there, and also with automating a slightly little bit of task. And as I also mentioned about how it can help us to analyze logs, that's definitely one area where we do that in performance testing too, where we have a lot of metric we have to come up with the impact of the performance, and a lot of analysis goes into it. And sometimes human error do happen. Some of the important key indicators may miss out. So ChatGPT can come in those areas to help us to speed up and to make things faster available for the product. And challenges as a whole, I do see data as one of the big challenge because it can be slightly biased. So the information we get, the analysis we get, it's all natural language processing. At the end, it has trained with a set of data. So as long as that trained data is good enough, the results will be good enough for us. If not, it might be leading us or giving us instructions which may not be very accurate. So again, you definitely have to be the final gatekeeper, ensuring whatever you put out is thoroughly validated, and you make decision based out of it. So that's my take on it. And yeah, we'll move on to the next question because this is really interesting. And the question is, how can the technology, specifically in your field, leverage ChatGPT's capabilities to improve efficiency and productivity in various applications? So what do you think about how ChatGPT can really help you enhance the overall productivity in your field? Probably we'll start with Ajay first this time. Ajay, would you share your views, please?
Sure, definitely. So from an observability point of view, ChatGPT's capabilities can improve efficiency and productivity of natural language applications from in many ways. Here are some examples. The first way is real-time monitoring. ChatGPT can be trained to monitor chatbot and natural language conversations in real time and alert the teams when there are anomalies or potential issues that require attention, as we discussed as benefit in the first question. The second example I would say is performance metrics. ChatGPT can be used to monitor performance metrics of chatbots and natural language applications, such as response times and user satisfaction rates. IT teams can use this data to identify areas for improvement and optimize the performance of these applications. The third example is root cause analysis. ChatGPT can be trained to analyze chatbot and natural language application conversations to identify the root cause of issues or errors. This can help IT teams to quickly identify and resolve the issues, reduce the downtime, and improve the user experience. The fourth example is security monitoring. ChatGPT can be used to monitor chatbot and natural language application conversations for potential security threats such as phishing attempts or unauthorized access attempts. IT teams can use this data to quickly identify and respond to the potential security breaches. The fifth example is trend analysis. ChatGPT can be trained to analyze chatbot and natural language application conversations over time to identify the trends and patterns. This can help IT teams identify the opportunities to improve and optimize these applications to better meet the user needs. Sixth example is automated responses. ChatGPT can be programmed to automatically respond to common IT issues or requests and reduce the workload on IT teams and freeing them up to focus on more complex tasks. yeah, those are the examples I would like to share from observability point of view.
Great. Thanks, Ajay. Very thoughtful. So now let's hear the same question from Sugandha from the point of view of hyper automation. What do you think about that, Sugandha?
Yeah, thank you so much. So from the point of view of hyper automation, right, and especially in program management, what I see is initially a lot of the decisions just 1 second. Yeah, initially a lot of decisions were being made. We didn't have a mechanism in automation to make decisions, especially, right? Oh, I am somebody there is a new feature that needs to be developed, right? And it looks like it has a list of requirements. Now, a lot of the times when it's a new kind of a feature that's being built, everybody's confused of how big that effort is going to be, right? And uh, in automation, where you need to know what happens, like set of repeatable steps, you need to have the information to give that to predict outcomes or to automate the tasks. With hyper automation, AI can be applied, right? So to use some kind of predictions. And here's where I see a big impact, right? Now what people can do is answer a bunch of questions, right? If any one of you has used TurboTax, or if you have used Stitch Fix, you answer a bunch of questions, and based on the answers of that questions, now the system, ChatGPT system, can give you recommendations, and not just recommendations. It has the ability to build an end-to-end starter program plan. So it can even tell you the milestones that will occur. It can tell you how big it looks. Of course, depends on the training that you give to the GPT algorithm, the brain behind ChatGPT. But it can give you an end-to-end starter plan with risks, with potential stakeholders, with potential milestone plan, with potential timelines. And that's a big plus for program managers, especially the ones who are starting new, and also helpful for developers who are starting new, giving them some kind of guidance to think about, and then they can work together, negotiate on the plan, and then and the timeline can be reduced. They can have more confidence on the plan. So that's something I feel from the automation perspective. Again, bringing the responsible into the hyper automation is to make sure there's always humans validating the plan, and there's always that trade-off and negotiation between the humans happening. So this is used as an additional tool to help you as your co-pilot, rather than the final source of truth.
Okay, thank you so much, Sugandha. And I very well resonate with the fact you said at the end it's a co-pilot, because Microsoft has named itself as a co-pilot in one of the newest feature it has. So I'll take the ball. Probably I'll just share what I think about this from a performance testing point of view. So how can we use the capabilities of this to improve efficiency? So the more we are discussing, I see there is a great overlap between automation, performance, observability, and product management. So that's good to know that we have a similar impact or great overlap between all of us. From perf testing point of view, there are some areas which can be used efficiently. The reason for that is we do a lot of activities outside the core performance testing. We start with identifying the non-functional requirements, which is one of the first step, knowing your goals. So sometimes it's all depend on your experience and what you're really looking for. So there are chances we might miss out on the important non-functional requirements. So ChatGPT can bring in expertise at that level. If we feed something and say, this is the expected outcome, what would be the best non-functional requirements for this, so that I can plan and design a performance testing around it. So I see there's definitely a benefit there. And also whatever performance test we do, whatever efficient systems we build, ChatGPT might be helpful in comparing our system to our competitors. So most of the data, especially when it comes to retail or entertainment, some of the data are made visible to the outer world. So we can see how our competitors are doing compared to what we are doing. So we can slightly change our viewpoint, our targets, so it can help us there. And for sure, analyzing the results and communication to the stakeholders, I want to reiterate that. The reason being, most of the time we have a lot of gaps I've seen in my own team. We have everything in front of us, but we have challenges when it comes to analyzing it. And the analysis is the important part, because based on that, business decisions are made. So analysis, ChatGPT can help us to analyze the results, and we can compare if we are doing good or if there are any areas which can be improvised. And also communication, how we can simplify our existing information to put forward to a different set of leaders. It could be someone at development team, or someone at the immediate managers, or someone could be as a CTO in the company, how you would like to communicate this complex information you have and simplify it at each level, so everyone get benefit out of it. So I do see those areas. Definitely ChatGPT can help us. Now I would really like to know from Astika what she thinks from product management, where it can help to improve the efficiency.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivek. I think as a product manager, one of my key responsibility is to develop a product strategy. And what that really means is that what is the next bet that my company should kind of invest in? What are the cohorts that we're trying to target? And for all of these things, earlier I used to, again, like how Sugandha mentioned, I used to like just go and score through just a lot of resources online and just like search for what customers really want, where is the market moving. Now, all of that I can like sort of now automate using, ChatGPT, which I have already been doing and I've been thoroughly enjoying, by the way, is just like doing that competitor analysis, the market research, and just coming up with new ideas, literally like brainstorming along with ChatGPT. And it's like really helpful. And then the next piece after product strategy is again to kind of like prioritize what features we're going to build, create a roadmap, on those features, and make sure the execution is happening correctly. And for that, again, I do see a lot of applications where ChatGPT could help us, probably coming up with templates, or literally actually prioritizing your backlog for you if you give it some inputs like how much effort it's going to take, are there any deadlines and stuff like that. So there is a bit of automation that you can do using ChatGPT. The other thing that I spend hours and hours of my days doing as a PM is document reading and document writing. So document writing, of course, like that is the first thing that I went to ChatGPT for, of just, making sure that the content that I'm trying to kind of deliver in that, document is like really concise, just like making sure there are no grammatical errors and stuff like that. So that really, did reduce the time and effort that I used to put back in the day in document writing. What I'm really excited to kind of try ChatGPT for next is document reading, because I've heard GPT-4 can do that, where you literally upload a document, it will summarize for you, it will try to analyze, what are the key relevant information highlighted for you, come up, like just spot, are there any deadlines, are there any like clauses or obligations that you're supposed to kind of know of. And also entity extraction is something that I was reading about, especially in the legal side of things, where they really want to understand who the main entities are, like in a legal contract. People, organizations, and locations mentioned, and I'm super excited for my legal team, my legal POCs, to kind of like just use ChatGPT for that, because there's a lot of like back and forth that happens between like the legal team and myself. Sentiment analysis, again, I had like touched upon it in the beginning, just identifying the positive or the negative, tones or the connotations that are mentioned in the document. I think ChatGPT would be really helpful for that. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which is really close to my heart, is once either like you build like a 0 to 1 product and you launch it, what do you want after that? You want to understand what customers are saying. What is the feedback that they're giving about your product, so that you can iteratively improve upon the product. And I think one of the creative ways in which ChatGPT could be applied here is just creating those feedback channels. And what that means is just analyzing, the customer feedback that you're getting. So we can develop, using ChatGPT, develop NLP tools that can analyze customer feedback, social media posts, or any of the other unstructured data sources that you have, and really give you, like, in a concise way, what the customers are really talking about. I think that to me is like really a game changer, at least for myself. Back in the day, with my first job as a PM at Microsoft, this was my key responsibility, just to like get a lot of customer feedback, and we used to manually label all of the data, just like spending days and days building ML models on top of that, experimenting on that, and just coming up with what ChatGPT can just do it probably in like, so much less time. So that is one thing that I'm really excited about.
Thanks, Astika. And one thing you mentioned about sentiment analysis that really strikes me is I've seen a couple of templates, but that's more from the AI side, and that's more packaged as a product, and it's all licensed products and things like that. I've seen templates for Twitter, I've seen templates for Yelp where they do some sentiment analysis. But you brought in a very important point that it will be interesting to know how ChatGPT, which is can analyze all of this open source information and do the sentiment analysis and go way beyond the capabilities. So that's something, a very good point, and definitely it's going to be interesting to see how it will turn out. I see some of your sending out questions. Thank you so much. If you have questions directed to any specific field or an expert, put that out. If not, that's fine. You can just send us just a question. Any of us would take an answer for that. We'll do that at the end. We have 2 more questions to go. So I'll move on to the third question. This is a good question because the question is more about what ethical consideration should be taken into account when implementing this in your industry. Specifically, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to data privacy and bias being done from these tools. So from your point of view, what do you think should be the ethical boundaries and consideration should be there? So this time we'll start with Sugandha first, who is a hyper automation expert. So we'll hear from her.
Yeah, there's several ethical, considerations when it comes to, using ChatGPT. Number one that I see is, this replacing a person with ChatGPT. ChatGPT or tools, AI tools are something that are used to, they're released to improve your productivity, to make you better at your job. And one ethical consideration that I have for management in general is do not look at it as a tool to like replace people. Help people upskill and redirect, get better, and think of it as, again, like I said earlier, think of it as a co-pilot, as something to make your teams more productive. In tech, we're so understaffed all the time, and it really helps. This tool can aid in terms of bringing people up to speed, bringing people, ramping them up faster, because there's a lot of like churn, people changing. So it's going to enable people more than, replace people. And the second thing I would say is bias and fairness. That's my favorite topic. When we're looking at ChatGPT and evaluating the models, or even the applications, bias and fairness is so important, especially from the data perspective, but also from the feedback perspective, right? So we got to identify our own biases and make sure that the tool does not amplify those biases that we have. We've seen examples with Microsoft Stay, right, where people came in and just tricked the AI to start behaving erratically, right? So these are the areas where we got to understand how our tool that we're using is going to work with the data that's been thrown at, and implement the responsible AI framework guidelines when using it. and making sure that we're iterating more and more and more to make it more fair, make it more unbiased.
That's awesome. So yeah, we'll move on to Astika to know about her take. Before Astika, you start talking. I see Karan has said he has a question. I don't know if it will be addressed later. So we have a flow. So we really want to complete discussing on the 4 questions, and then definitely we'll get to any open questions any of you may have. So yeah, to Karan and anyone else, if you have any questions, just put that in a chat. So we'll go once these main questions are addressed in our discussion. So thanks. So yeah, coming back, Astika, according to you, what ethical consideration should be there?
Yeah, thank you, Vivek. I think picking off from where Sugandha left off, just on the topic of potential biases, right? I think one of the ways that does come to mind of how we can probably minimize is just the biases lie in the data, right? And how does one avoid it? It's making sure that the data is diverse and inclusive. So I think just, one step before like just analyzing data and like building ML models, the creativity is just like lying in the ways that you use to collect data. So making sure, like as a PM, I do feel it is my responsibility to make sure that the DS team or the data engineering team, they understand whether the data is like diverse and inclusive or not. And if not, what are some of the practices that probably at the company level or at the org level or at the team level is there that we can practice. So that's one. Again, from a product perspective, I feel whenever there's like some automation happening behind the scene, and especially because ChatGPT is so new, I think it is probably worthwhile to make it more transparent to the users that, hey, ChatGPT or like some kind of automation has gone in some of the decision-making, algorithms that we're using. I think that also like, feeds back into the fairness point as well, like because especially working at Meta, there's a history of like the company enrolled in like all of these legal cases and stuff like that, and there has been like questions about like fairness and transparency and stuff like that. So as a PM, like I would definitely want to include in my product itself somewhere, either using content design or like some like help center article or somewhere, educating the users at what is this ChatGPT and how we are using it. I think that's one. The other thing is also user consent. And as a PM, like we always kind of push back on like the policy teams and the legal teams that, hey, we do not want to make our product like, full of friction by like showing all these like consent, dialogues where they literally have to go in and like give their consent. But I think if we are using ChatGPT or some kind of automation that's which is specifically very new to the industry, I think we should kind of inform the users that, hey, this has been used and whether you do give consent for this way of like data, collecting data and like using the data. Again, just to also touch upon the point that ChatGPT is not perfect, it does make mistakes. So it is definitely essential to have human oversight in place. You can't just like remove the humans out of the picture and have just ChatGPT take over, at least not now. Yeah, those were my points.
Okay, thanks, Astika. It was really nice put out. So I would like to share what I think from my point of view. So ethical consideration, the one challenge, I won't say challenge, but one thing I've seen with ChatGPT is rapid adoption. I read that it has able to get to 1 million users within 5 days, which took Netflix almost 3.5 years and Facebook almost 10 months to get to that user. So 5 days is too fast. And the more and more people are getting into that platform, the more it is spreading like a wildfire. And if you open your Instagram or YouTube or anything, as long as you have searched ChatGPT once, it's there in your history. You just see only information related to that or something built on top of it. And I've seen so much Chrome extension and things built on top of ChatGPT. I mean, it's insane. It's already there. People are like very rapidly adopting to it. So it can lead to a couple of consequences. Again, data privacy is one. When it comes to performance testing, also, we have to create a lot of test data. It's part of our job. So ChatGPT might be used in such a way that to give more realistic diversification of data, which can be used in our performance testing. So in order to make my work better, or in order to make our process better, we might be using ChatGPT way much extensively, and also at a point where giving all this access to the data. So they have access to all this data, and ChatGPT is built on the information which was fed till 2021, and it needs more data. It also needs to understand what users are searching for so that additional enhancement can happen. So data privacy is definitely a concern. I'm really not sure what level of data can be shared. And with ChatGPT 4, there is already a buzz that it can process documents and images. Any sensitive information, document or image, if you would like to process it or used it, then they already have access to it. So that's one boundary where we are not really very clear how this data is being used. So there I do see a red flag. So ethically, for sure, it should be out in the open, and as long as it stays in your computer or ecosystem, it's running locally, all the data stays locally, could be still better compared to you running it in the ChatGPT, where you pretty much, once you upload it, it's out of your system, and whatever happens with the data, you don't have much control over it. So I definitely see a concern there. So definitely there should be more rules and boundaries needs to be set by these big companies so that users feel comfortable using them and it has a wider impact. That's my take. Probably I'll switch over to Ajay and would like to know what he thinks about this.
Sure. Thanks, Sugandha, Astika, and Vivek for sharing your views on ethical considerations. So I'll share my views on from observability point of view. As with any technology implementation, there are ethical considerations that should be taken into account when implementing ChatGPT in the technology industry. From a monitoring point of view, here are my key considerations. The first one is data privacy and security. ChatGPT may be processing sensitive data such as user information or system logs. Ensuring that system is secure and compliant with privacy regulations is crucial. It's important to establish clear policies and procedures for data collection, storage, and access. The second one is bias and fairness. ChatGPT can learn from historical data, which may contain biases and perpetuate unfairness. It's important to ensure the data being used to train ChatGPT is diverse and representative of user base. Additionally, it is important to monitor ChatGPT's responses to ensure they are fair and unbiased. The third ethical consideration is transparency and explainability. ChatGPT's decision-making process can be opaque and it's difficult to understand. It's important to establish clear guidelines for how ChatGPT can make decisions and to provide explanations for its outputs. The fourth ethical consideration is human oversight. ChatGPT can automate many tasks, reducing the need for human intervention. However, it's important to ensure that there is human oversight in place to review ChatGPT's outputs and intervene when necessary, as Sugandha mentioned earlier. The fifth ethical consideration is accountability. ChatGPT should be accountable for its outputs and actions. It's important to establish clear lines of responsibility and accountability for ChatGPT's decisions and actions. So these are the 5 ethical considerations from my point of view. Overall, ethical considerations should be an integral part of implementation of ChatGPT in the technology industry from a monitoring point of view.
Yeah, that's great, and I think pretty much all of us agree on the fact that there should be a human intervention at some point. We cannot rely on this completely, and that's great. With the interest of time, I know we are into the last question. This is one of the most asked questions, so we'll try to take quick turns and just let the audience know what we feel about it. And that question is, how do we see this impacting the job market? Will we have our jobs be in danger? Will it replace some of the jobs we have in the industry? So I'll go first. So talking about performance testing and engineering as a whole, I doubt it'll ever be at a point where it can completely replace any like a job completely. So what we have seen is even before automation existed or CI/CD tool like Jenkins existed, there have been jobs. The role and responsibility of the jobs are changing as the technology is growing. So some of the task which we were doing before may not be needed to be done at that level. So we have offsetted that, given that to tools, and now we have a free time. So we take up additional roles and responsibilities, which will further enhance the technology as a whole. So that's how the DevOps job came into picture. That's how the observability, all this new variations of what we used to do before has come into picture. So I think we'll be moving more towards evolution. All the time we were spending on documentation or maybe analysis, all this task could be automated and pass it on to these tools. But there is always be a different diversion to what we have been doing. We had the same question specifically for performance testing when cloud was introduced, because most of the issues was with the infrastructure restrictions, because performance testing, there are limitations. Then that's basically half of the issue was with the infra. With cloud, it gave us the flexibility to expand and reduce the resources with more dynamically. Then so there is no really need of performance testing, but that's not the case. We really have a different set of challenges when it comes to by adopting the cloud. So that's my take on it, and probably I'll switch over to Astika and would like to know from her.
Yeah, I mean, I would maintain that ChatGPT is by no ways gonna just like take over the entire tech industry and like have every one of us jobless. That's not gonna happen, at least not in the near future. But there is a potential of having like new job opportunities created, like as Vivek touched upon, right? Like probably new job opportunities in areas such as AI development, NLP, and chatbot development and stuff like that. And I mean, people who are interested in these fields already probably want to make sure that they do understand these concepts and do provide the their subject matter expertise beyond what ChatGPT can. And touching upon that a bit more is that as a product manager, a lot of our job does require a lot of human judgment, does require a lot of decision making. That is not just doesn't stop at just the objective decision making, but there is to a certain amount a subjectivity component also there, which only a human can bring to the table. Creativity and how do you creatively solve problems. So I think so for product management, I'm really excited to use ChatGPT for all the routine tasks and making sure that those get automated, and then my time is kind of freed up for the more creative components of my work where decision making is there and stuff like that. So I definitely see it as an important aid to a product manager. In general, though, I feel that there would be an increased competition in the tech industry overall, because now even the smaller startups or solopreneurs have the access to same level of technology that these big companies have. So I think probably it might create more jobs, on the contrary. So yeah, that's what my take is.
That's a really good take on it. Ajay, would you like to share your viewpoint on that, please?
Yeah, I agree with the views shared by Vivek and Astika. I would like to answer this question from DevOps engineer point of view, which was my official title for the last 7 years. ChatGPT has potential to impact the job market in the technology industry from a DevOps point of view in many ways, like automation of routine tasks, increased efficiency, new job roles, skill requirements, improved collaboration, and reduced need for manual monitoring. But overall, ChatGPT's impact on the market industry, in the technology industry from DevOps point of view, is likely to be complex and multifaceted. And it will also depend on how well it is implemented and adopted, right? So while ChatGPT has potential to automate routine tasks and improve the efficiency, it is important to ensure that it is used in a way that complements rather than replacing the roles, the skills and expertise of DevOps teams.
Great, wonderful take, Ajay. So Sugandha, would you like to give your inputs on that, please?
Yeah, I really loved Astika's take on it's going to create more jobs than replace jobs. I also see an opportunity of redirection, where people who are stuck in roles and sometimes not by choice, where they had to do a lot of manual things, now have an opportunity to find time to upskill and move to a role of their choice. And I also want to say that I'm super bullish on the tech industry to actually adopt ChatGPT and similar tools to help with things like work-life balance and also like improving productivity overall for employees, because we are heavily understaffed all the time. But I also do want to address this concern, because the first question people ask is, how are people gonna really believe in the technology if they don't know? And that's where Astika earlier mentioned about awareness, right? And I talk about that a lot. We need to create awareness, transparency. We need people to know what this is and what this is not, right? And that's where the tech community is going to be very instrumental in coming out for events like these and talking to people, explaining to them what this is, how it can help them, how it can make their life better, how it can make their job better. And that's how we're going to address the whole concern of, is this going to replace my job aspect.
Okay, that's great.
Mhm.
So wow, that's a great discussion we all had today. We finished our 4 questions. I know we are running short on time. We have a couple of questions from from the people we have in our call today. Probably I'll read it out. What we can do is one of us take the question, just 1 or 2 lines. What do you feel about it? And that should be good. I have a direct question from Veera. On the question is about, how about some applications in the non NLP, natural language processing area, such as coding? I haven't experienced a tool that codes in depth. Do you have any recommendation for an AI tool that codes as well as ChatGPT, but is more affordable? Anyone wants to take that? If not, I'll just share what I feel. Okay, so any other tool which can be good in coding in depth? I think we are moving towards it. ChatGPT by itself can give you some level of coding, and I do see, I think Visual Basics and others have already incorporated a couple of plugins where you can use it. And I've come across a couple of Excel explanation sort of a thing where you explain your problem and it gives you the code which needs to be added in the Excel, things like that. So I think we're moving towards it. Probably we may have to wait for a little bit more time to give something which can build in depth. And to a greater extent, I think what Sugandha talks about hyper automation or robotic process automation behind the scene, you do a drag and drop or a flow chart, but behind the scene, it is actually connecting all your code and making the automation work. So we are there, but it may not be very customized at this point, but I think we are getting there is what I feel. Anyone else have anything to say can add? If not, we'll just move on to the next question. Okay, perfect. So there was a question from Kanika on our jobs. I think we spoke about it in length. So there is another question from Karan. Is there any concern around utilizing ChatGPT in a work setting with regards to privacy preliminary? I think Astika touched upon that topic a bit, but want to know more about this. Do we see this getting officially adapted by organization in the near future? Astika, do you want to take?
Yeah, so this is my personal take. I do see that this would be officially adapted by organizations. At what level, in what depth, like we don't know yet. But if I were to build any product which is especially like user facing, or even like a product which does collect data, I would wanna make it super transparent to the users, explain to them, like, again, how Sugandha put it, like what it is and what it is not, how are we going to use this data, and also add a component of getting some explicit consent from them, especially unless we reach a point where like all companies or like majority of companies do this and it's become like a second nature to the whole tech industry and how it functions. I think until that point is reached, I would definitely make it super transparent.
Okay, awesome. We have a question from Kritika, which Sugandha has sort of answered, so I'll let her share her view to everyone as well. For security folks, what would you comment be around using ChatGPT? Because security teams are worried data breach or if used for anomaly detection or security events and incident management tool. What about zero-day vulnerabilities? Sugandha, you have sort of responded it. If you can just let everyone know.
Yeah. So this was, I think Vivek, you mentioned it. This was a big question during cloud adoption as well. And this was kind of a question when any new technology came in and, where you suddenly feel you're in uncharted territory. And it's a great question from security standpoint because, every time we've tried to go digital, we've tried to adopt a new technology, there are malicious actors out there who try to utilize this and take and kind of hold companies ransom and take away a lot of money monetize out of it. So what I see here is one model we could definitely look at is, and I have no way publicizing my company, but AWS did this, they solved this problem. Azure did this as well. So they have created a model, a framework out there. We can look at that and then iterate over that framework to see how they address the security concerns that people had and got adoption across the market. I also see, I know Kritika, you are a risk specialist, an expert. I think I see people like you coming forward to, find out what these security concerns are and how they should be addressed and becoming advisors to, companies like OpenAI or other companies who are actually implementing and adopting these technologies to make sure they are thinking about these risks early on and addressing them so that the malicious attackers are not able to use this as an opportunity to dampen the spirits of people who are using this technology for a good use.
Thanks, Sugandha. There is another question from Ron, which Sugandha sort of answered, but I'll let Ajay take it so all of us get a turn. So do you think that the ChatGPT and other language models continue to advance? They might put a damper on the creativity and originality of the future tech experts. So Ajay, you have anything?
I don't see ChatGPT as a negative thing. I see it as a positive thing to help the creativity and originality to create more apps, and that helps the customers. Overall, I do see it as a positive thing, not as a negative thing.
Great. I think we catch up on all the questions. Do anyone else have anything to ask? You're free to unmute yourself and ask us. Okay, great. It was such a wonderful conversation with all of you. And we are a part of the Kriya Expert Circle, and we are in LinkedIn. We would love to connect with you, talk to you, and we would definitely try to do more sessions in the similar fashion. This is much more fun than doing a webinar. So probably we will plan for it further. And we really thank you so much for being here and giving us your time. And we will try to upload this video on the YouTube too, so that everyone else can also have a benefit of our discussion. So thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.